will test these two to the wire.
And it's going to be a filly in the Belmont.
American Foe is finally the one.
Secretary is widening there. He is moving like a tremendous machine.
Welcome to the Belmont Stakes Draw Show on Fox Sports 2. This is the trophy that awaits the winner of the third and final leg of the Triple Crown, the test of the champion, mile and a half in the Belmont Stakes coming up on Saturday afternoon. Good to have you with us. We're going to see where everyone lines up for this race coming up in the next few minutes. I'm Greg Wolf. Good to have you with us. And last year, it was the early stages of the pandemic. No spectators on hand, and the Belmont Stakes is the Triple Crown race that kicked off the series with Tiz the Law winning this race. This year, back to what we expect from this race. We will have crowds and fans in the seats, and it will be the third and final leg. We have 5 runners returning from the Kentucky Derby. We have the Preakness champion back in Rombauer as well. Very interesting field that will line up for this year's 153rd edition of the Belmont Stakes. With me is New York Racing Association handicapper Andy Serling, and we all expect to see Essential Quality as the morning line favorite in this race.
Yeah, interestingly enough, the top 4 choices, the Kentucky Derby, all did not come back in the Preakness. Now, Rombauer dominated that Preakness. Rombauer is back for the rubber match, so to speak, against all of those top 4 choices that did not win the Kentucky Derby. Essential Quality was the favorite. He ran well in defeat. He just was a little bit wide. He didn't get the same great trip he usually gets, but he is a horse that always shows up with a top effort, and he is a deserving favorite in this year's Belmont Stakes, but he's got a real rival in Rombauer. Rombauer basically burst in the scene. He seemed like a completely different horse in the Preakness, absolutely burying the field. He had a decent trip, a good trip overall, but he won with authority, running a 102 Beyer speed figure, exactly the same Beyer speed figure that we saw the winner of the Kentucky Derby get. It's a nice match between those two, and there is other talent in the race as well.
Horse who started his career on the grass, and his owners, I know, still believe he could be a very good grass horse down the line, but we'll see if he can collect 2/3 of this year's Triple Crown Series coming up. Here's the runners who will line up in this race, and so often in the Belmont, especially recently over the last couple of decades, we've seen horses pass on the Preakness and really put in a huge effort coming out of the Derby, waiting and coming back to the Belmont.
We've seen Todd Fletcher take advantage of that in the past, as well as other trainers, and this is really an important race for the 3-year-old championship. If Rombauer wins this race, it's going to be very difficult to unseat him as the 3-year-old champion. If Essential Quality, Hot Rod Charlie, or one of the others wins, it puts everybody to level playing field, and it makes the rest of the races more of a chase for the 3-year-old championship. Rombauer has a lot on the line.
You can play this race and a tremendous week of action we have coming up with Naira Bets. Get signed up and started at nairabets.com. You can also head to the app, Belmont 25, that code to use at sign up, and get a $25 free play in the Belmont Stakes and a 100% deposit match of up to $200, and bet any track, anywhere, anytime with Naira Bets. Time to find out where everyone is going to line up in this third and final leg of the Triple Crown. Let's head to Acacia Courtney.
Thank you, Greg. Here in the downstairs area of Belmont Park as we get ready to begin the post position draw for the 153rd running of the Belmont Stakes. It's my pleasure to introduce Kevin Schnorr and Keith Dolishell from the racing office to draw the field. Gentlemen, we have a field of 8. Take it away.
Five, France Go Diina, Hideyuki Mori, Ricardo Santana Jr. 3, Rombauer, Michael McCarthy, John Velasquez. 7, Rock Your World, John Sadler, Joel Rosario. 1, Bourbonic, Todd Fletcher, Kendrick Carmouche. 6, Known Agenda, Todd Fletcher, Irad Ortiz Jr. 2, Essential Quality, Brad Cox, Luis Saez. 4, Hot Rod Charlie, Doug O'Neill, Flavian Pratt.
That makes the 8.
8, Overtook, Todd Fletcher, Manuel Franco.
That is the field of 8 for the 153rd running of the Belmont Stakes. I have the morning line odds, courtesy of David Aragona. In post position 1, it is Bourbonic, who's 15-1 on the morning line. Number 2 is Essential Quality, your morning line favorite at 2-1. 3, the Preakness winner, Rombauer, 3-1. Number 4, Hot Rod Charlie, 7-2. 5, the Japanese Invader, France Godina, 30-1. Number 6, Known Agenda, 6-1. 7 is Rock Your World, 9-2. And number 8, Overtook, 20-1. That's the field. We'll send it back up now to Greg and Andy for some more analysis. And guys, I'll try to catch up with some connections down here.
All right, Acacia, thank you. So, Bourbonic will have the inside post, Essential Quality post 2, and Rock Your World gets outside of the other speed in here, Hot Rod Charlie, post 7.
No, I don't believe these draws are that meaningful, especially with 8 going, but I do think if the one thing you want to take from is just what you brought up, Rock Your World breaking outside of the other potential speeds. Now, he is the quickest of the speeds. By breaking outside of him makes it a little easier for Joel Rosario to sort of survey the field. But, Greg, you've got to think they're going to lead after the debacle in the Derby.
Yeah, no question. John Sadler turned to his owners right after the break from that gate. It was Essential Quality who actually bumped him early on, turned to his owners and said, we're done. He knew from the outset that was it for him.
Well, I would also say that Javier Castellano on Highly Motivated saw that he broke a step slow, and he kind of came over and closed the door. I think it was very good race riding on Javier's part. You see a rival break a little slowly, you take him out of the race legally. That's good race riding.
And he got bumped so significantly, too. Joel Rosario's right foot actually came out of the stirrup, so it was a significant bump. Obviously, hoping for him to get a much cleaner break. He didn't break all that sharp either, which might have hindered him a little bit as well and caused some of that. See if he can break sharp, get out there, and he's likely going to be the one in front. The big question for everyone, can they get the 1.5-mile distance?
Yeah, I'm not as worried about the 1.5 miles. With Rock Your World, I think he's a good horse, and his Santa Anita Derby obviously was a tremendous effort, but he also did it on a track that was very favorable to the running style he had that day. Can he do it in this situation? The other thing is that Essential Quality and Hot Rod Charlie, his 2 serious rivals along with Rombauer, both of them have enough speed to stay close, so I don't see Rock Your World getting a significant pace advantage. He may just get a trip that is better for him than the one he had in the Derby.
2 California horses. They project to be the ones out in front, but yeah, again, Essential Quality has shown he could be tractable as well. Take a look at the Belmont Stakes winners by post position going back to 1905. The inside post has been pretty good.
Yeah. That is actually funny. I would never have guessed that, you know? That does seem a little more than random, but there's probably a lot of randomness, but that's funny. 24. Wow. Almost twice as many as the most anybody else has won. I guess 6 and 8 are unlucky numbers. But
helps you've gotten some good horses in there, too, like a Justify.
I'm guessing we looked through and there was a pretty good random drawing, but maybe that makes Bourbonic's connections feel good.
Well, again, last year it was Sakatoga Stable, Barkley, Tag, Manny Franco, and Tiz the Law leading off the Triple Crown in a Belmont Stakes that was contested at 1 1/8 miles to kick off the series. Back to what we're used to. It will close this Triple Crown series at 1.5 miles. We'll check in with the connections right after this on the Belmont Stakes Draw Show.
This son of Danzig ranks among the world's elite sires, with Grade 1 winners on dirt and turf and star performers both at home and abroad. Warfront's success as an international super sire is unmatched. Recent stars include War of Will, a classic winner on dirt and a Grade 1 winner on turf, Halliday, and Civil Union. In the auction ring, his progeny continued to command top dollar. Warfront, standing at Claiborne Farm.
No sport in the world brings the wins home like racing. It's one-of-a-kind, high-speed, high-stakes action, and Naira Bets takes you there. Place your bets and watch the races live from anywhere. With Naira Bets, make easy, secure deposits and promotions every day to earn reward points or cash. Download the Naira Bets app or visit NairaBets.com.
We are back on the Belmont Stakes Draw Show. Program is brought to you by Naira Bets, where you can bet all the action, any track, anywhere, anytime. Go to nairabets.com, or you can download the app to get involved. Belmont 25, that code to use for new members that sign up, and you'll get a $25 bet for that Belmont Stakes and a 100% deposit match of up to $200 at sign up. Post positions have been drawn. Morning line is out. And here's a look. Essential Quality, 2-1 morning line favorite after passing on the Preakness, and a horse that Brad Cox has told Jonathan Kinchin on our American Day at the Races show he felt this was going to be his Belmont horse before the Triple Crown even started.
Well, I read a quote somewhere that he said the first time the horse ever worked, he was going to be his Belmont Stakes horse. Now, I've heard a lot of funny tales in racing, but that one's up there. I get it. He has the right kind of, first of all, he's very good. But second of all, he has the right kind of running style for the Belmont. He's sort of a horse that can just gallop along at a fairly good clip and just kind of gallop his competition into submission. He's not going to be compromised if the pace is a bit faster. He can sort of run along behind them, and if it's slower, he'll be right there. And he's a very, very talented horse. I have no argument with him being favored and thinking that he's the horse to beat in this race.
Oh, and he's a Tappet.
Tappets have done pretty well in the Belmont Stakes over the years, as you may know, Greg.
Yes, they have indeed. And he's not going to have to worry about that, tough post that he had to deal with in the Kentucky Derby, being hung extremely wide. Just an 8-horse field on Saturday.
Exactly, and also Belmont Park is not a racetrack that punishes people with losing ground because of the wide sweeping turns at 1.5 miles. Being wide and ground loss isn't as significant as a lot of other tracks with their tighter turns. He's not going to be compromised in all likelihood by Trip. He's a very logical horse, but his competition is not slight.
Again, it's not often you see a horse win one of the classics in this Triple Crown series and you lose your rider. That's what happened to a previous commitment for Flavien Prat, who had ridden Hot Rod Charlie in the Derby. And they had said they'd come back to the Belmont, he would be there, but he wound up winning on Rombauer in the Preakness, so it will be Hall of Famer John Velasquez, who has a long relationship with Michael McCarthy from his days with Todd Fletcher, who will step in.
Yeah, and Flavien Prat is riding incredibly well, so losing him is never a good thing. But picking up John Velasquez isn't a bad thing either. And John Velasquez is having a real resurgence, it seems, over the last year or so. He's really been riding in top form, and he's a professional in these races. He'll do fine on Rombauer. It's really up to Rombauer to get it done. And I think the question with him, and I'm not doubting him, is can we see it again? Because this performance, in some ways, it somewhat came out of nowhere. He had run reasonably well in past races, but this was a gigantic step forward for him. Now, maybe he's a horse, and very likely just coming into his own, and perhaps he'll take another step forward. That may well happen in this race. I do not discount him, but in some ways, you still kind of want to see it again, don't you, Greg?
No question. It was a huge move forward. And you look at that Preakness, too, and not to take anything away from him, he ran a terrific race. He was eating up all that ground, and a lot of horses weren't making up any ground, but 2 horses up front did battle, and it did set up nicely for someone to come and pick up the pieces. Not that he picked up pieces, he ran huge.
No, I think all of it, listen, you can get a perfect trip and still run well, and I think that's what you're saying. And let me also say, not like anybody else was making up ground, because those 2 horses were battling, and I totally agree with you. They finished 2nd and 3rd in this race. He was the only one that showed up, and he showed up in a big way.
How far back early do you think he's going to be in this race?
That's a good question. I don't think he'll be that far back. I mean, he wasn't that far behind the pace in the Preakness, right? And the pace was pretty hot, and this one seems to be more tepid, so I'll be surprised if he's more than 3 or 4 lengths behind.
Should mention it's an 8-horse field. We were expecting actually 9. Rebels Romance UAE Derby winner. Connections did decide to pass early this morning, so it's reduced to an 8-horse field here as we see. But the big names, obviously, we talk about obviously your Preakness champ, Essential Quality, but the 2 California horses, not just Rock Your World, but I think Hot Rod Charlie is a key player coming into this spot as well for Doug O'Neill.
Yeah, I agree about Hot Rod Charlie. He's an interesting horse. I really like him. I think he's a major player in this race. I'm a little concerned that he's a horse that's his best when he can control on the front end, especially going longer, as he did in the Louisiana Derby. That's not going to happen in all likelihood here. In the Kentucky Derby, it was a funny race. It was a bit of what we call a merry-go-round race. Essentially, nobody really switched positions. So in some ways, I don't hold it against Hot Rod Charlie that he sort of ran in place the whole way around, because that's the kind of race it was. But I think he's at his very best when he can control on the front end like a lot of horses. And with Rock Your World in here, that's not likely to happen. That doesn't mean he can't win.
This was Joel Rosario's call to go to the front in that Louisiana Derby. Again, we don't expect this to happen in the Belmont Stakes. Rock Your World is just naturally a faster horse, but he can sit right behind him and track, and he's run very well. He ran very well in the Derby with that same sort of style.
Oh, absolutely. The thing that worries me is there's a big difference between running well when you rate and running well and winning when you rate. And he didn't do it. Now, listen, that's one race, and maybe some of his others as well. He's an excellent racehorse. He's a major player in this race. I'm sort of talking about my one concern with him more than anything else. I definitely think he can win.
Well, let's get more on Hot Rod Charlie and hear from his trainer. Let's go back to Acacia.
Pleased to be joined now by trainer Doug O'Neill as Hot Rod Charlie, another one that skipped the Preakness, opting to come to the Belmont Stakes. Tell me a little bit about that decision.
You know, the clients, Greg and Bill Strauss and Patrick and the boys of boat racing, you know, we had talked prior to the Derby, and if we got lucky enough and won the Derby, we were going to head to Maryland if he was doing well. But if we didn't win, the plan was to give him 5 weeks and try to come here. So that's kind of how that worked out.
How has he been training since then? We saw him with a couple of really strong works and strong gallop outs out in California.
Yeah, he's doing really well, and we've been so blessed in Southern California the last 5 weeks with the weather. So knock on wood, he hasn't missed a beat, and he got in here Saturday like John Sadler's colt as well, and he settled in well, and he had a good gallop today on the train track, and we're looking forward to tomorrow morning. He's going to be on the main track, so we're just pumped to be connected with such an amazing horse, and just looking forward to Saturday.
We saw him wire the field in the Louisiana Derby. Do you think he'll be ridden aggressively in the Belmont to try to get the lead?
You know, that's the beauty of Earmuffs Whitey if he's here, but that's the beauty of having Flavien Prat, right? You just win, lose, or draw, you know he's going to make the best decisions out there, and so it'll be up to him, but obviously Rock Your World is going to be, you know, breaking clean and showing a lot of speed, so we'll just have to play that by ear, but it gives you a lot of calm knowing you've got a guy like Flavien on your horse.
And quickly, tell me, the coach Lava Man is here too?
He is, and he's so settled. You know, he's not the greatest shipper, but for some reason, the barn we're in, it's got a lot of windows. He's much more relaxed and doing great. He still carries himself with a ton of confidence, and he's a great mentor for all the horses, especially Charlie. So, yeah, the team is back.
Looking forward to seeing him pony him to the gate this weekend. Doug, good luck.
You got it. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Lava Man, of course, one of the greatest claims of all time. Doug claimed him for $50,000, became a 7-time Grade 1 winner, 3 straight Hollywood Gold Cups. He is going to lead Hot Rod Charlie over in the post-parade as he did in the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, he's a terrific horse, a horse that was incredible on all surfaces, and he made one trip at Belmont Park as a racehorse. He didn't ship as well as he ran in California, but an excellent horse, and it's a neat story. He goes along with Hot Rod Charlie.
Whenever we get to the Belmont Stakes, you got to remember whose backyard this is. A man who this year, it was a certainty, going to become a Hall of Famer, and that is Todd Fletcher. He has had tremendous success in this race, including a win with a filly, and he's going to have 3 chances at it. And known agenda, likely the best chance for Todd Fletcher this year, had the rail in that Kentucky Derby. And I went back and looked at it a few more times. We're taking a look here at the Florida Derby. Actually did make up some running, or some room in that Derby. He got boxed in for a little bit. He did run late a little.
We're going to have to agree to disagree. I thought he ran terribly in the Derby, but that doesn't mean he can't run well in the Belmont anyway. Todd has not only had the success he has with winning this race 3 times, and they're not all short-price, super logical horses by any measure. He's also had horses run well that were big prices. Commissioner lost by a head at 30-1. Todd knows how to get horses to the Belmont Stakes, and he also understands the importance of the Belmont Stakes. And unlike other horses that aren't showing up, he shows up and he brings 3 horses here. Known Agenda is clearly the best of the 3, but he's got to answer the question about whether or not he's good enough, frankly.
We'll find out. Look, and Fletcher felt that way too. He ran a sneaky, much better than looked race in the Derby. It's not what it used to be. That rail's never a good place to be. He did break fairly sharp, but immediately got swallowed up, and he was 3rd last early on.
Because he was too slow, though.
He's going to need to run a little better. But yeah, he likes to come from off the pace, and he was boxed in for a lot of the race.
We don't agree on his Derby trip, which is fine. That's one thing about trips. People look at him differently, and Todd Fletcher agrees much more with you, Greg, than he agrees with my saying. That doesn't mean he can't win anyway, even if I don't think he was good enough in the Derby. He's still got to take a step forward. He didn't run as fast in winning the Florida Derby as the other horses have run in their races. That doesn't mean he's not going to step forward. I think the key with Todd Fletcher is his horses have stepped forward in the Belmont Stakes.
Bourbonic, of course, another one for the Todd Fletcher barn, who came from the clouds to get up and surprise at 72-1 in that Wood Memorial. And of course, he'll have Overtook as well, who's third in the Peter Pan. Rags to Riches, the filly who won it for Fletcher, Palace Malice in 2013, and Taprit back in 2017.
Right, and Palace Malice paid almost $30. Todd Fletcher knows how to get horses that might not look good enough on paper to win, to run very well in the Belmont.
Let's head back downstairs to Acacia for more. Standing by with Todd Fletcher.
Pleased to be joined by trainer Todd Fletcher, who has 3 running in this year's Belmont Stakes. Todd, let's start with Known Agenda, post position 6. How has he been doing coming out of that run in the Kentucky Derby?
He's been doing great. I'm really pleased with him. He's had a perfect preparation since the Derby. Everything's gone according to plan, so we're very, very happy.
You, of course, know how to win the Belmont Stakes. You do have 3 runners, another one, Bourbonic, the upset winner of the Wood Memorial. What about him, as I know he's been handled a little bit lightly since the Derby?
Yeah, he's a horse that doesn't carry a lot of condition. He's very fit, and he puts a lot into his daily gallop, so we haven't breezed him real hard. But, you know, I like the way he's doing. He seems like he wants to stay the distance, and so we're drew the rail, hopefully get a good ground-saving trip, and see if he'll stay that far.
Overtook, we last saw him in the Peter Pan. What has he shown you to make the decision to say that he's worthy for a try at the Belmont?
He's actually been training a little more enthusiastically than he normally does. He can be a little bit lazy in the mornings. I thought his couple of works since the Peter Pan have been improvement. Being out of an APND mare, we feel like he'll handle the distance. And I thought he ran pretty well in the Peter Pan, considering there wasn't much pace on him there. And so he'd certainly benefit from a good solid pace up front.
We did see Michael McCarthy win the Preakness, a former assistant of yours. Any little side bets or extra pressure now coming into the Belmont?
Well, pressure's all on him. No, his horse ran great. I've seen him out here. He's training great. So, you know, it should be an interesting race.
Todd, we appreciate your time. Best of luck this weekend.
Thank you.
Well, yeah, Michael McCarthy, I know Todd Fletcher was so happy for him. They embraced a big hug when he got that win. Michael McCarthy says the day he started for Todd Fletcher, he spent 11 years with him as an assistant. That was sort of the day that changed everything for his career.
No, it's very understandable. He's a terrific trainer, but learning from a guy like Todd Fletcher, and Michael McCarthy's not the only one that trained under Todd Fletcher that's had success. You learn an enormous amount. You're around a lot of extremely good horses, and you think about a lot of successful trainers in this game. They worked under some very, very big names. Todd Fletcher worked under Wayne Lucas. Chad Brown worked under Bobby Frankel. You learn from the masters, and clearly Michael McCarthy learned under Todd Fletcher.
Meanwhile, back to these California horses and back to Rock Your World. Let's look back at his Kentucky Derby and this disastrous start that we were talking about that sort of took him out of the race.
Right, he's the number 15. He breaks a little slowly, and you see Javier Castellano come over on him, and he kind of closes the door. I don't mean this grid. In fact, that's a compliment to Javier. He was riding the 5th choice in the race, and he thought, oh, look, a major contender broke a little slow inside of me. Let me get him out of the race. And Essential Quality was sort of put into that squeeze, too. And I don't think it helped Essential Quality either. So it created a bit of a logjam. Rock Your World never ran a step in here, but when you look at that start and the kind of horse he is, and Joel losing his stirrup, and he lost his stirrup, a lot of people don't understand how tight that gate is. I talked to other jockeys, and they said that gate is very, very tight, so those things can happen. It's not like he was sitting in there lollygagging around on his cell phone and forgot to put his feet in the stirrups. He's Joel Rosario. That horse's race was over literally a half a second after the gate opened.
And as a result of that, took a lot of dirt in his face, too, which is something he's never been used to, because look what he did in his dirt debut. Santa Anita Derby, broke extremely sharp, got to the front, and was able to hold off the horse who'd be your eventual Kentucky Derby winner. Of course, that win's still in question.
Right. Right. Potential Kentucky Derby winner. He had everything his own way in here, but he still ran a triple-digit buyer speed figure the first time that he ever ran in the dirt, and I believe about his 4th career start. So to suggest that he's a finished product that just got lucky in one race would be ridiculous. He has every right to keep improving, and he probably will. And in this Belmont Stakes, he'll get to be in his comfort zone. In all likelihood, he's going to get to be in front. That's what he wants to do. The question will be whether he's good enough and whether he's good enough in a mile and a half.
And not just the fact he's going to get to be in front, is he going to get to do it easily? That's a question, too. Joel Rosario, he's won 2 of the last 6 Belmont Stakes. He won with Tonalist back in 2014, and that brilliant ride he gave on Sir Winston back in 2019.
One of the best big race rides, probably the best big race ride we've seen in this Belmont Stakes since Gary Stevens rode Victory Gallop to a narrow victory to upset Real Quiet's Triple Crown hopes. Joel Rosario is an incredible rider. Listen, this is basically a race full of Hall of Fame riders, guys who are in or guys who will eventually be in the Hall of Fame. But in my opinion, Joel Rosario is as good as any rider and better than many.
Meanwhile, little international flavor in this race. Francisco de Ina, who did compete in the Preakness, is going to return for the Belmont Stakes. Big bonus on the line should he surprise and win it.
Yeah, well, listen, I can't knock anybody for taking a shot here. It's not like we haven't seen crazy upsets. I was here when Temperance Hill paid over $100 in this race. It's a mile and a half and anything can happen. He's a difficult horse to make on paper, but you know what? There are winners every single day at racetracks around the country that are difficult to make on paper.
It's going to be a terrific race. Third and final leg of this Triple Crown coming up on Saturday in the Belmont Stakes. Our coverage on America's Day at the Races on Fox Sports 2. We pick things back up on Thursday, evening racing, 3 Eastern start time on FS2, and then Friday we are busy, 12:30 to 5, 6 to 6:30. That Belmont Stakes preview show, you don't want to miss that. That comes up at 6:30 Eastern time, and then we got coverage before and after the Belmont on Saturday.
My head is spinning, Greg. I'm looking forward to all of it. I'm looking forward to being with you for much of it as well.
Going to be a lot of fun. Thank you for joining us on the Belmont Stakes Draw Show here on Fox Sports 2. Essential quality. He'll break from post 2, and he's the morning line favorite.
The ultimate accolade for a racehorse is to be named Horse of the Year. To be enshrined to the Hall of Fame is to achieve immortality. As a stallion, genetic immortality is defined in 2 words: breed shaper, plain and simple. 2-time Horse of the Year and Hall of Fame inductee, Curlin is just that. Breed shaper, Curlin. The classic sire.
It's America's original sport, and no one covers it better than americasbestracing.net. From the sport to the lifestyle, the best races, horses, and destination venues, cocktails, gambling, fashion, and more. americasbestracing.net is a sport for you. Live it, love it, bet it.
Taprit, sold for $1.2 million as a yearling at Saratoga. Taprit's victories include the Grade 1 Belmont Stakes.
The Belmont Stakes!
In his first 2 years at stud, he bred over 240 mares. Now his first weanlings have arrived.
And Show Barn, 100,000.
One of the best bred sons of Sires Taprit to ever enter stud. Classic winner and stakes record setter Taprit, standing at Gainesway.
Racetrack Television Network brings you every race, from every track, on every screen, every day. With monthly packages starting as low as $5, RTN gives you great value and access to more live HD streaming and race replays than anyone. Visit RTN.tv today to sign up and watch on almost any device, including Roku and Amazon Fire. Use promo code TRYRTN for a 5-day free trial.
We'll test these 2 to the wire.
And it's going to be a filly in the Belmont!
American Foe! It's finally the one!
Secretary is lightning there. He is moving like a tremendous machine.
Welcome to the Belmont Stakes Draw Show on Fox Sports 2. This is the trophy that awaits the winner of the 3rd and final leg of the Triple Crown, the test of the champion, mile and a half in the Belmont Stakes coming up on Saturday afternoon. Good to have you with us. We're going to see where everyone lines up for this race coming up in the next few minutes. I'm